What's up, everybody? Welcome to another special rookie edition of Call to Action in the Chill to Action slot. There's been so many rookies to talk to, so many people to talk to that we took another week off at Chill, which will return next week. But I'm here with one of my favorite co-hosts, the beautiful, the lovely, and I love that shirt, as you all know, Kelsey Kirkland. How are you doing today, girl?
I'm doing good. Super excited for tonight's show. Glad I'm feeling better. I'm glad I missed yesterday, but I'm good. I'm here. I'm so excited. It's been fun.
Well, we've been talking a lot with everybody. I think I missed yesterday too, honestly, because I was feeling a little under the weather myself at this point. We've been running ourselves ragged trying to get all these interviews in. We love them. We love talking about the Schmodown. Of course, we're also here with one of my best friends here on the podcast. He's usually only here for the good ones, as he says. That's his famous trade line that I was going to throw it out there now because I just like to say it. Billy Belford, my friend, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Apparently, I'm coming to you from my Commodore 64 that apparently I'm currently running to try to get onto the internet or some crap. I don't know. Can you hear me now, Paul?
I can hear you now. It's not quite matching up, but I can hear you, which is the most important thing. I will say, I'm going to steal your joke. You do have a suit jacket on, so you do have the Ben Bateman technical issues, and that's not a joke.
Made a mistake. Try to put on a suit jacket, try to polish a turd, and it didn't work. We were having some technical stuff, but I'm here. I'm ready to talk to some Schmodown rookies, some people trying to make their name in the Schmodown. We made our name in the Schmodown. Now other people are trying to make their name in a different way in the Schmodown. We are a 2-time award-winning podcast, or Schmodown Media, as it were now. And now some other people are trying to find their place in the Schmodown. And we got a couple of guys tonight.
That's right. That's right. We are the Schmodown Media, back-to-back winners. Was called the Rundown Award. We're going to petition that it be changed to the C2A Award. We'll see how well that works out. Yeah. I'm sure Frank and Brad would love that.
Frank will love that.
But without further ado, we've already talked to you guys enough. You guys have talked to us enough. You guys are waiting to hear from the rookies. Let's bring them on. Let's bring them on together instead of separate. Let's have these guys interact, and because they might be interacting. Hell no, they might be in the same faction. We don't know what's going on yet. We're going to find out. First of all, one of the big Star Wars names you're going to hear about. And you know him. I think you've seen him on one or two of their shows, but you haven't seen him on us yet. Mr. Thomas Harper. Thomas, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing today?
Hello there. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, excellent. Also, we're going to have on another one. He has got a good following. Christian mentioned him on our Chill to Action as one to look out for as well. Mr. Frank Alvarez. There we go, Mr. Frank. How are you doing today?
Hey, good evening, guys. How you doing?
Doing good.
Not too shabby, man. So what we're going to start off with, I'm going to have to switch you guys up. See, I did it again. I did it wrong. But there you go.
I wanted to be Thomas.
I like Frankie.
Face off. Do a face off. We want to try it. First question we're going to ask both you guys. Obviously, new additions to the league, new additions to eligibility. Where did you hear about the Schmodown? How did you get into it? And what made you decide to take that plunge? Thomas, we'll start with you.
So Alex and Molly Damon bear sole responsibility for bringing me into this league. Responsibility because Alex finally caved. I had been in his ear consistently. We see each other every year at Labor Day, at Dragon Con, and we face off every year in high-level Star Wars trivia there. I would say probably the only competition on this planet that's in the same league as the Schmodown in terms of difficulty and fanfare and whatnot. But as soon as I heard about the Schmodown, it was through him. I learned that he and then eventually Molly were competing in it. And I said, I got to be a part of this. You got to talk to Christian, tell him, give him my bona fides, and eventually 2 years ago, I think Scrimshaw was at Dragon Con presenting. He was in the audience. I was like, surely this will do it. Now he'll see me competing and he'll have no choice. And then nothing happened. And then here we are today. So just took till 2021. That's all.
Long term.
They're trying to keep you away, man. They don't want you to take the title.
Well, I mean, that is what we heard. I mean, you have beaten Mr. Damon, something that only Sam Witwer has done in the Schmodown. So definitely looking forward to that meeting, as I'm sure you are.
Yes.
How about you, Frank? How about you?
I've been an old school Screen Junkie fan from years and years and years ago, and through them, obviously, Ellis and Harloff, kind of they partnered with them on a bunch. I remember Ellis coming on; he was the cute one. He still is the cute one. I always watch Schmoes Know, and kind of watch them from a distance, and always kept my ear to the ground, and then around season 4, I would say, is when I really started aggressively watching and, kind of really, really paying attention. And I drive a lot for work, so it's easy for me to throw a match or two on every single drive and just, just kind of, I'm hooked. I'm also a big wrestling fan. So, kind of, seeing the flair that goes into it and, how it's kind of, notching both of those boxes for me was something that was like, oh yeah, I need to dive right into this, and I've been hooked since.
Wow, Star Wars fan and a wrestling fan. This is really a podcast for me at this point. So I'm gonna get some of those things later on. Absolutely. Thomas, now Star Wars. Go ahead, Billy. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
I was gonna say it's a lot of the rookies they're new to the Schmo. They're not new to the Schmodown, but the Schmodown is new to them, I guess you could say. Like, people don't really know who they are. There's like a mythos around you because there's this guy who beat Alex Damon at Dragon Con. We don't really know what happened or how and for years he had to strive to beat this guy, and it's and now it's ooh, here's the guy. So do you feel any added pressure coming into the Schmodown because there is around you?
I feel like now that you see me in my basement, like my natural domain, it just really strips away the mystique. Normally, when I'm up on stage with him, I'm on 2 hours of sleep and in a t-shirt, and so it really must be intimidating. Unshaven. No, I love Alex, and I love him partially because he's a great guy, as is Molly, but because he's a great competitor. I know that every single year, assuming that we both make it on stage, because that's never a guarantee, you have to make it through a qualifying round, he's going to come out swinging. And so when I hear him on the other end of the table, because it's always a 10-way sort of death match at the start and it gets whittled down from there, but he's going to be surviving to the next round. So he's sort of he's my marker that I go against every year. And as I'm prepping with a mindset towards, I know how he preps. I know how he comes in prepared. Quite frankly, I can probably predict who 3 or 4 of the other finalists are going to be, but Alex is always the gold standard. And I would say that regardless of my record against him, but we have that sort of mutual respect as two competitors. And I carry that same mindset coming into the Schmodown.
I don't know if it's just me, but anything that you do at Dragon Con sounds so badass.
There's always a dragon involved.
There's always got to be a dragon. What did you do? What did you do last year? I swept the floors at Dragon Con, and it was like,
Don't
all right,
worry,
okay, yeah, dragon.
Rule number 1 and 2: don't ask about Dragon Con.
Even the stories, if you do it while you're dodging dragon.
Already breaking the rules.
This is all accurate.
Well, Frankie, you mentioned wrestling as part, and that obviously Schmodown is definitely trivia, but it's also got that entertainment value that's side part. Do you have are you going to come in with a character enhanced mind? Is this you, and there's going to be a bigger Frankie Alvarez when you get in there?
Everyone sits there and comes up with characters for themselves, and try to escape reality in some regard. But growing up, as a big wrestling fan, I always it was funny, my brothers and I would wrestle in our room and stuff like that, and I was always the heel, obviously, and then I was the factual one. That was my thing. I was the factual one, Frank Alvarez, and my move was the fax cutter, and it wasn't a cutter at all. It was a double arm DDT, but I think I'm going in, and going in with my conversation with Christian is I'm really going in with an open mind and trying to, mend and meld anywhere I can, and if I get drafted, the fact of the matter is I'm going to adjust to what I need to do. If I need to be big, loud, and, angry and snarky, I'll do it. I really think that I can hang with the best of them in terms of, the gift of gab. Now, with that comes, the trivia aspect of it. And, I do think in terms of my basic, trivia, I'm above average, but I know with the right people, man, I can get some steam behind me and I could possibly do some damage. So, I don't really know if I answered your question. But yeah, it's just, for me, it just seems like it always has been the perfect meld of entertainment and competition for me.
Right. I get that. That's the allure, really. Sometimes when people, it's hard to find that perfect mix because it's a weird mix of it's the entertainment side, but the game side is actually so legit and real. I mean, wrestling, obviously it's scripted. It's easier to make storylines because you can say who wins and loses. It makes it a lot more different when there's a reality aspect to it. So finding someone who's a great character and great at trivia, that's like really the
well, it's tough because, in wrestling, you see so many people, it's I don't want to say fabricated, but a lot of times when people get over, it's because of just purely the entertainment aspect of it. I think we've seen some, maybe not as much now, but in wrestling, we've seen a lot of wrestlers that don't necessarily have the in-ring capability to back up the personality. So what I have always been drawn to with the Schmodown is these people that are making a name for themselves, they're doing it not only with the ability to talk, but with the ability to fucking retain this knowledge,
right?
And to spew it out and use it and work under pressure,
Right.
and I'm not sitting here knocking wrestlers because they do something I'll never be able to do, but yeah, man, it's really like the work you need to put in the work. You can't coast.
Right. Absolutely. And Thomas, what about you as far as like character goes? Have you given any thought to that at all? Like as far as because Star Wars isn't known for a lot of characters so far, but pretty much straightforward for the most part, except for maybe Adam Witt. That's just Adam Witt being Adam Witt, to be honest with you. You any thoughts on any kind of picking?
I don't want to ever ape off anybody, but man, Laura Kelly plays a heel like nobody's business. And if you know her outside of the role, I mean, she's the nicest person on this planet. But she's just stone cold right there. And as a kid, when I watched wrestling, and I guess as an adult, because his career lasted that long, but it was always the Undertaker for me, sort of that silent missile that you knew was coming in the ring. You knew you knew his record, you knew his presence. He didn't have to say much of anything, but you knew he was coming. Right. And if I got to pick a mantra, I think that's what it would be. Because Alex knows me. Two of the other rookies from Dragon Con know me. They know what I bring to the table, and I have a feeling that the other competitors, who are all good, that entire division is stacked with talent. But when they sit across from me or opposite a screen, I guess, until we go back to live in-person events, they're going to know that deep down too. The difference being that there are only 3 people in the division that have seen me live before, unless you go watch the 1 year of Dragon Con that's available on YouTube.
Yeah, and I think that's something else that I saw is I think, because I was in a call the other day and there were a bunch of people. I was the only person in there that wasn't in the fan leagues. And I think that, to an extent, like, I felt I didn't feel left out, but, to an extent I was like, oh, damn, like, am I going in, with, half a deck here, and people are going to, have an advantage over me. But at the same time, like, if there's game tape on you, there's game tape on you. And people kind of have an idea. Like, even in the fan leagues, like, people interact. From what I saw, it's a pretty tight-knit community. And they know about each other. And there's almost a bit more of an advantage coming in completely blind to other people because they're not going to know how to plan against you. They're not going to know what to go in. They're not going to know what to look for in your game. They're not going to, and a lot of times, it's the fan leagues is only half of it, and the trivia is only half of it, and you can know everything there is to know under the sun. But if you're not able to perform under that pressure, it's entirely different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've always said that the Schmodown is half knowledge and half recall, because you can know everything in the world, but if you can't recall it in 15 seconds or the 30 seconds, it's useless. That's the beauty of players like honestly Alex Damon comes to mind, because the Star Wars division is pretty much the most specific knowledge that you have to recall of any of the division, and his ability to recall it and regurgitate it in the 15 seconds is what makes him Alex Damon. There are people who probably know as much as Alex, but his ability to recall it immediately is what makes him different. It's interesting, Thomas, that you the Undertaker, because the Undertaker always felt like a force of nature. Like that's kind of like what he was like as a wrestler. Like it was that ominous thing, and like, you know, maybe that could be your thing is you're like a force of nature coming into this league to blow out some of the old news, you know.
I like that. I got to just get past like the draft first of all, but then the first match, I can't be this like weak little breeze that blows in and just dissipates. What was that? Did somebody sneeze?
You got to be Thomas the Typhoon Harper.
You have your name already, Frankie. I cannot imagine that there's a better name out there than bringing your life full circle with your wrestling name as a kid.
The factual one. Well, it's tough.
It's gotta be it.
I need to live up to it. You know, then it's like if I get one wrong, it's like, oh,
I love that.
Screwed up.
I just love that your childhood name was factual, and in fact, your finishing move wasn't factual.
It wasn't. It was the irony.
Well, he's a heel, so that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, you know, and of course, my line when I would cut promos in the room was, "All right, now it's time to face the facts," and it was facts. It was a very long, convoluted, stupid story that I'm not going to put you guys through.
I believe.
I'll shut up and just listen.
I grew up in New York, and when we were growing up, we were all dumb little kids. We all had a tag that we would write on our books, and mine was facts, F-A-X. Of course. So, you know, full circle, man, full circle.
Never know what you can do from your childhood.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, Thomas, I'm going to give you a chance right here to be a little dramatic here. Are you the best Dragon Con player coming into the league?
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. And I know that not just because of my confidence and my knowledge and my prep, but the facts bear it out. Marie and Zach have both gotten lucky. They got lucky in their wins. You know, it takes a lot to get there, so I'm not knocking their preparation or their survival skills to make it through a competition. But I know how Zach's win went, and I shot myself in the foot that year, erased the correct answer, wrote the incorrect one, and I honestly don't think he knocked out Alex in the next question. I knew the answer to that question, sort of classic move, and who knows where it would have gone after that. But the record just reflects that, but for that single win that they've gotten, that little inch out over me, I've dominated both of them. So there's no question in my mind. They're nice folks. They know their Star Wars. I just know more.
Ooh,
that's just how it is.
That's how it is.
You heard it here. You heard it here, folks.
I love it.
Managers.
They're nice folks. Oh man, that's a T-shirt.
I love them. Dragon Con is legit a family, but when we get into the trivia arena, it's like a family that's been on a long car ride together, and you're all stuck in the back seat.
Yeah, and that makes for good TV. I'll tell you that much. Makes for good TV.
Sounds like the Schmodown community a little bit.
There's no
each other.
Yeah.
There's no better way to talk smack about people than to just absolutely just obliterate them with compliments. Like, oh, they're great, beautiful people. They're nice. They're nice folks. It's just evil, and I love it.
Oh man, it's so good. They're nice folks. I love it so much.
So, Frank, you are, and obviously Thomas is coming to Star Wars. Are you coming in the singles and teams, or what's your goals for this, as far as division wise?
You know, I'm keeping an open mind. You know, I think Star Wars would be the farthest from my current knowledge, and it's I know it seems in theory easier because it's a finite piece of media, you know, and you know obviously the extended media and stuff like that, but you know, I'm going in willing and ready to do anything that I need to do, you know, and I'm also, you know, I watch a lot of sports and stuff, and I really appreciate like the utility players and any regard and being able to insert them anywhere and to have a reliable person. You know, I think I could be that, you know, I do. And seeing, you know, all of the inner geekdom stuff, I know, but I don't know it to the extent that I think right now I'll be confident enough to go in and do some damage. But if and when there's a draft and I get drafted, it's just a matter of putting the time in, putting the time and effort, and that's what I spoke with a couple of people that I've spoke with is I really think that the time and effort that I would put in would make me dangerous in any league.
Fair enough.
Speaking of that, have you started prepping for being in the Schmodown, like actual studying and things like that? Or is you kind of waiting till if you get drafted and knowing like what your faction's expectations are and things like that?
I've definitely, been keeping more of an ear to the ground. The last few days for me have been a little hectic. I just moved into a house and my wife is expected to pop any day now. We're expecting a baby girl any day now.
Congrats.
Thank you. So, but
And Frankie.
Yeah. In the meantime, I've definitely been, keeping an eye on things. PJ just sent out a list of all the wheel slices, and I had to take a step back and take a breath because God Almighty. But I've definitely gone through and started looking at some of the ones that I think I'm already confident in, and like some of the ones that I need to highlight the most, and start taking some of those on before I can do anything else.
Fair enough. Justin saying Thomas Harper is the man, and thank you for lettuce wrap Ferris. I guess I did say that.
Listen, lettuce wrap Ferris. I'm still not ready to speak to him. He insulted. I'll ask the question here, guys. Yes, I'll ask the question here. Where does French onion soup rank in your soups? And if it's not the top, why?
I'll
Because crab
say
biscuit exists in this world.
I do like a good New England clam chowder. I gotta tell you, but French onion is probably number 2. I'll give you that. It's like 11 mozzarella. But what did he say?
He said it's not an appetizer. Soup is an appetizer, ladies and gents. I don't know if you don't know this.
Well,
What is he, Kenny Banya from Seinfeld? Soup's not a meal. You owe me another meal.
I think we just found Ferris yet another nickname.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Tom, how about you as far as Star Wars? And obviously, have you any thought to doing IG, or are you just completely going to always be strictly Star Wars?
I think my mentality is to chop the wood that's in front of you. And right now, that's Star Wars. I'm coming in, obviously, with some expectations, partially because of my own doing and the high bar that I set for myself. I'm here to tell you, if you're watching this and whatever you think about me, I can tell you that I'm always the harshest critic of my game, my prep, and my ability. And so my mindset is to prove myself in this arena. Obviously, Dragon Con is its own thing, but Schmodown is its own world that's very different than that. Very different in the questions that are asked, very different in the strategy and the character work, very different in the overall, I guess, structure of the league. It's just sort of apples and oranges with the exception of the actual Star Wars content. And my mentality is to climb that mountain first. I was like you, Frankie. I looked at that email, just the 296, I think, movies on the Inner Geekdom list, and had to kick back. And I watched a few Inner Geekdom matches this summer as I was like consumed by the Star Wars tournament. I was blown away. The folks in that competition, especially at the high level, are just very, very good. And so there may be a day in time where I come to compete in that league, but I think my goal is to chop the wood that is the Star Wars division first.
And I think with the expansion that we're currently seeing, it's almost as if, like, yes, is there a level of, the people that are already in the league and kind of are established, do they have a leg up in some regard? Absolutely. But I don't think we've seen an expansion this radical at any point. So it almost kind of levels the playing field. Are there people that are already proven and they're champions or past champions? Absolutely. But the amount of knowledge that people are going to have to learn to, kind of regurgitate during the matches now, it's something that is going to give anybody, no matter who you are, a run for your money.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. So you've been watching now for a little bit.
I got another question for Thomas. So Dragon Con obviously is the pinnacle of Star Wars knowledge, because you have to know everything in the Star Wars canon, right? Like, it's not just movies. Now, this is just movies. or for the most part, have you switched your like preparation techniques for the Schmodown versus Dragon Con, or do you think there's enough overlap that it's kind of the same thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. For the uninitiated, Dragon Con is canon, all canon. So films, visual dictionaries, novels, comics, hell, the fucking short stories in Star Wars Insider that are considered canon. I mean, it's overwhelming and it's everything. And it's it's 365 prep is what it is, because you've got to not only study the material that exists, but with each new release, you've got to consume that and know it. And so my prep for Schmodown is similar, but I don't have to flip on all the switches that I do for Dragon Con. So whereas when I get into the meat of my Dragon Con prep, it's knocking the dust off of all those old novels and refreshing my memory. I don't have to do that here. What does help is that all of that background material that is sort of permanently like stuck in my brain that I will never be able to get out, maybe without like therapy, is that it gives background. So when a question gets asked that's about an obscure character or a vehicle or something like that, to somebody it might just be like a line on IMDb or the script that they have feverishly tried to memorize. And I think that's always inferior to knowing the actual story. That's why Alex is so good. If you want to know why Alex is the way he is, it's because he knows Star Wars. He's not knowing and rapid recalling because of his skill with rote memorization. It's because he knows Star Wars. If he names any of those things as an answer, I guarantee you he could sit there and cut a YouTube video for his channel explaining that thing. And there's power in that. There's a lot of power in being able to know it to that level of detail. And that's part of the reason he's able to recall it so quickly. And, because it's not like we were the bartender from the cantina because I just studied that on a flashcard. It's like, hey, here's his backstory. He's from Arkex Station. His parents were killed in a droid attack during the Clone Wars. He's got PTSD. When R2 and C-3PO come in, he's scared for his life and he wants to throw him out of there. Like having that level of knowledge about like some background character or whatever that you're asked to recall is powerful. So I think that knowledge, not having to know it, but knowing it, surges my ability, and it's just going to sort of reinforce my prep. And there are some weak points. I'm not going to lie that I have some areas that I'll discuss with, if I get drafted, whoever my manager is and my teammates, and work to polish those up. But that's sort of where my mindset is.
Fair enough. By the way, there, Vader choking Captain Antilles is awesome, and I agree. That's a great.
My house burned down, and my kids were safe. This would be the one Star Wars toy I would come in and save. No, Captain Antilles and Vader.
Fair enough. Now, Frankie, you mentioned seeing the wheel slices. Obviously, can't give any away. I know they're having a lot of new slices out there. But as far as it goes, do you have a big one you're looking forward to? As far as like you got this ones you're gonna want to put on the wheel?
One that I got. I think. That's a tough question. I watch a lot of what I watch is comedies. And, I probably to the point where it gets annoying, and not, it's easy. A lot of people that I know that are like, I love to watch movies. They watch only the good ones. I have a weird soft spot for, just the absolute dumpster fires of movies, I hate to admit it, but disaster movie, we are, like all of those, like just absolutely dreadful movies are, they're entertaining to watch because it's like a car crash. You need to watch it. But I think comedies would be a good spot for me. Obviously I keep my ear to the ground with a lot of comic book movies and stuff like that. So I do think that, as that's still a wheel slice and we get into that, I think I'd be okay with that as well.
Do you have a favorite movie?
My favorite movie of all time is actually The Mask from Jim Carrey. Wow. It is. I've seen that movie forward and backward. If they had a Mask League, and it was, Inner Geekdom, Singles Team, Star Wars, and The Mask, I might be the Alex Damon of that, but yeah.
Just the first one though, right? Not Son of the Mask, or
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no clue what movie you're referencing. As far as I know, there's no Son of the Mask. You son of a... Never mind.
How dare you, good sir. You actually should find a Video Chronic they have on the channel. She does these trivias on just one movie. And so
2-time winner. Yep.
You are. For Birds of Prey.
Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey.
So you can talk to her. Maybe we can get him the mask out.
Listen, I'm ready, willing, and able to absolutely embarrass myself.
That's a great talent to have. A great willingness to have. To put out there.
Boy, oh boy! My wife always tells me, she's like, "You're an anomaly because you do things that would normally embarrass people, but you don't feel embarrassment." And it's like, and that's sober too. If I get the alcohol flowing, boy, oh boy.
We'll find out at the live event. That's what you'll see. Because one of our members, Jake Acavetta, he always buys trays of shots. So if you get
if and when there are live events again, if I see you guys there, I'll definitely buy you all a drink if you consume safely and responsibly.
If they consume,
at least, yeah, we consume. With that. So Thomas, what about you as far as like your favorite movies, Gilliam Maps, Star Wars? I'm assuming it's a Star Wars film, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I feel like I always box those out and put those in their own league because it's sort of like a shrug. I feel like that's almost like a cop-out answer for me because people I say like Empire Strikes Back, and people are like, oh, of course, like, duh. But if we're talking non-Star Wars movies, I have to say it's neck and neck between Aliens and Terminator 2. Frankie, I'm like you. I could sit here and tattoo myself the script to Terminator 2 without needing to look up anything. That movie is just it scared the hell out of me as a kid. My dad, for whatever sick reason, decided to show me that and Aliens because he loved those two movies, but just couldn't wait until I was like an appropriate age to watch them. And for years, I would only want to watch Terminator 2 in particular if it was edited for content, like on cable. The T-1000, like to this day, I'm like, Darth Vader's a great villain, but man, have you seen the T-1000? Like, damn. To this day, the scene where he terminates the step parents and Todd is there like drinking the milk and he just stabs him right through the milk container. I'm like, oh no, I have a flashback to being 7 again. But yeah, if you were to tell me I could run off with 3 movies to a desert island, it'd be Empire and those two.
The days when R-rated movies were marketed toward kids.
Yeah. And I want to know how many like kids bought tickets. Oh, there's some movies that are completely inflated price wise because they bought the tickets to those crappy like PG rated movies in order to get the Aliens and the Terminator 2s at this point. But
it's crazy because there are so many movies from that era that like my wife, we have a 5-year-old. And there's so many movies I'm ready and willing and able to I want to show him, and then I remember I need to draw it back a little bit.
Yeah, I've had those moments. I have a 10-year-old and 8-year-old, and I'm like, this movie's great. I'm going to show it to you. And then I'm watching it like, I forgot about that part. I forgot about that part. Probably should have waited.
I was so excited that when my oldest was 5, that's when episode 3 came out. And I wanted to take her to a Star Wars movie because I wasn't sure at that point there was not going to be any more Star Wars movies. It's like, I don't care. She's 5. I'm taking her anyway. And my wife is like, you got to cover her eyes when Anakin gets torched there at the end. I'm kind of like, all right, you're right. So I did that. And at the point she starts she starts crying a little bit. I'm like, oh man, maybe this was too much for her. I'm like, oh, maybe it was too much. And after I go, you okay? What do you think? He's like, yeah, like, see, because you're crying. He's like, I'm crying because you put your hand over my face. I want to see what's going on. I'm like,
so it's funny. Our little guy, he's very perceptive, and of course, we watched The Mask, and he was the Mask this past Halloween for that was his costume. And, he's watching, and I'm picking up on the adult jokes as they're flying in. And in particular, the scene where he pulls a used condom out of his pocket and he goes, "Oh, wrong pocket." He doesn't ask about anything the whole movie, but then he sees that and he's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Boy, how much time you got, kid?"
He just wanted his costume to be really active.
That's what gets the note sent home from the teacher.
Yeah.
Phone calls, definitely. Well, heading back to the Schmodown, I want to ask, you guys have actually said you've been looking at things and everything else. Have you been reached out to by managers? I know the managers have been kind of talking to some of the rookies, trying to feel them out. Have you guys made any connections yet so far?
Frankie, go ahead.
Yeah. Two people in particular reached out to me, and I've chatted with them a little bit. I won't say who. I don't know if they want me to say who. But two people have reached out. They've expressed, they wanted to talk to me. We chatted, shot the shit for a little bit, and it was great. We see so much of the entertainment side of thing, and then seeing people behind the scenes. Everyone has been so kind and welcoming and really, really, really generous. So, I'll tell you what I told them. Whatever people need from me, I'm there.
Yeah, I would echo exactly what Frankie said. I mean, the community, whatever I thought of it, the good impression that I had from the outside looking in has just been completely blown away in a really positive way. Like it's just been so much more welcoming than I could have ever imagined. You guys are a good example of that. I've had a little bit of contact. I'm doing a combine on Tuesday night that fortunately does not involve me bench pressing anything or taking the Wonderlick. But yeah, we'll see where we land. And, I would just be happy to get drafted at this point and get a chance to play alongside. One thing that's, interesting to me is I'm coming in at a time where the rules have changed. Obviously I guess the rosters have expanded by a little bit, and I hear chatter about, hey, a team might be tempted to take two players from a division, like two Star Wars or two Inner Geekdom players. That might be more likely. And I would be happy as a clam to be on a team that had two Star Wars players, sort of like if they've got an existing league player and I come in sort of as the Aaron Rodgers during the Brett Favre era, sort of the disciple in waiting, or do my work, bide my time, and when I get my shot, make the most of it. But yeah, I would be excited. I say that if you're a team or manager out there that needs somebody who's malleable, that's willing to learn, and is not going to, I come in with a lot of confidence because I've done this the last 6 years, but I also come in with a lot of humility. I don't take any of this for granted. Just like I don't take Dragon Con for granted. I just want to be on a team where everybody's rowing in the same direction, and it's just a good group of friends to be with. Competitive, obviously want to win and want to do that. But if I come out of this at the end, I don't care if I win a single match, but if I've gotten close with the folks on my faction and made some friends along the way there, some new Star Wars buddies, that's a huge win in my book.
Well, first off, I will say that as a Bears fan, I'll ask you to refrain from any Packers talk.
Oh boy!
I'll say that right out front. I'll forgive you for this one.
I will say, as a Jets fan, I ask you guys to refrain from all football because it's been hard. I think something
they do exist.
Yeah, right.
Jets fans exist.
Yeah, we're real. We're real. We are among you.
Don't you see the pain on his face?
You can't see it here. There's a couple gray hairs.
I need to ask.
That's funny.
Something
I have
else
a
that I
quick
saw.
Jets question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I never get to ask a Jets fan this.
Yes, go ahead.
How upsetting was it that you had the number one pick all wrapped up, and then they decided to start winning games? As no need to answer. It's fine. We can move on.
I mean, listen, one of the things, my wife and I play a game every single week. And we, at different parts in the day, we guess a random number between 1 and 34. And that's normally what the Jets are losing by, whatever the number is. So we've learned to just take it, on the chin and just go with it, And it is. It's fun. It keeps us, and you'd be surprised how shockingly close we get every single time. But just to kind of interject, on the, speaking to, in regard to the league and stuff, I think something that I've seen from, the managers that I've spoken, and granted it's a small, subset of the, the managers at large, but I think what is viewed as success in the Schmodown is starting to change, because I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like we're going in and everything is going to be, like it's all about wins and stuff like that. And I think now we're seeing, sorry about that. I think now what we're seeing is success is not only about, individually going out and winning. It's about, doing what you can to carry the team, the faction, and, being an asset. So that's something I think is going to be really cool going into this season, is seeing how the factions are approaching things in a different manner in order to say, all right, well, listen, success to you might be someone coming out going 7-0 and, winning the championship. But for us, it's going to look a little different, and here's how, so it's going to be a really, really, really interesting season. And if I get drafted, either way, I'm excited. Either way, from a fan and a part of the draft, I'm excited.
I like that. Yes, now, Thomas, you mentioned the community. And they both mentioned the community. The Schmodown community is definitely a welcoming one. It's a very exciting one. Obviously, in our world and in our genres, there's all sorts of different communities. There's the Schmodown community. I'm sure there's the Dragon Con community. And we know there's a Star Wars community, which has been interesting as of late. Can you comment on the Star Wars community, where we are as now, and what you'd like to see from them going forward, and maybe what you saw from the past?
Are you talking the larger Star Wars community?
The larger Star Wars community, maybe the past versus today kind of thing. Like how it used
radio, the radioactive part of it. I think, and I say this with a bit of knowledge because I grew up with my dad having stacks of the old Starlog magazines, and so pre-internet, these are just letters to the editor. That's like the Twitter of the day, and the same sort of obviously you've got an editor that's filtering stuff that comes in, but you see a lot of the same sort of invective that was back there. So I think there's an undercurrent that was always, maybe shamefully so, there, that just has a platform and a microphone. And more often than not, when folks say outrageous things, they're saying it, I think, to be outrageous. I question whether some of these folks actually believe it, or if they're just trying to get a platform and they're just trying to get clicks and likes. And what ends up happening inevitably is that as people quote tweet or retweet or do all these things, it just amplifies it. And that, to me, the giving of oxygen to these things is one of the biggest issues. And I don't know a good solution to it, because you want to speak out against some of these things. The like saddest chapter I think yet has been, as the High Republic is launched, it's been this amazing new venture, and folks that haven't read a single page of any of the material, comic book or anything else, feel compelled to take time out of their day and go on to Amazon and write a review for a book they've never read, or go come at an author that they've never met and that they've never read a lick of their work and make a personal attack about. And that's just shameful. Like, if you're out there doing that sort of thing, just, you don't have to like all of Star Wars. That, if I had a message in this podcast to send to everybody that's out there, we all don't like some part of Star Wars or like it less than other things, but that doesn't mean that Star Wars isn't for you. That doesn't mean because somebody likes something more than you do that they're a bad fan or that they have a bad opinion of something. I mean, if like the NFL fandom were like that, the whole community would just be ripped apart and there would be no NFL anymore, right? And I say that as a Washington football team fan, sharing in the same sort of misery that Frankie has lived in for years. But it just, I think Twitter has been the kerosene on the fire. But I consistently, after each blow up happens, I'm encouraged because the core of the fandom seems to come back together and rally. And that's, I guess, all you can hope for. I don't know.
I agree with that. I agree. I mean, just so you know, I'll pitch it out there. I read High Republic, and it's a great book, so you guys should go definitely take a look at it. So, It's great to see them. I actually would say like the reason why I like the High Republic so much is that it reminded me that during the new canon, you can't have a lot of important things happen in a lot of the books because if it's really important, it's going to end up being on the screen somewhere, like a big like Star Wars movie or a TV show. Having them do this whole new event, like taking place in an untouched era by screens, makes it exciting again. You don't know what's going to happen to these
Exactly.
and everything else. So that's my little pitch as a Star Wars fan. So
Nice.
Exactly.
oh, excuse me.
You're a Star Wars fan, Paul?
I am. I used to run a Star Wars message board. In fact,
Paul, I don't want to
lightsabers back there.
Yeah, Paul, I don't want to get too off track though, but I will say my favorite band of all time is Queen, baby. So seeing that hat,
oh
seeing
man,
that hat.
You got
That
right.
hasn't been him.
I don't have favorite album. What's your favorite album by them?
I'm sorry.
Your favorite album by them? Do you have a favorite album?
News of the World.
News of the World. Okay, that's cool.
But my favorite song is Melancholy Blues.
Ooh, the BBC version.
Don't get me. Listen, I don't want to start belting out on here. This isn't the music trivia schmodown. It's
That's going to happen eventually. Down the road.
eventually, yeah.
We have Ben Bateman in the chat. Fantastic stuff here. Blaine
Doing,
PLD.
As always. He knows best. He knows best. And Ben Bateman, I know him. He's definitely scouting you guys out because no one games the Schmodown more than the former champion. And
He's thinking right now if he can beat Thomas Harper Star Wars. That's what he's thinking. Even not
That's
in the
true.
Star Wars League, he doesn't.
Ben Bateman
He's
did
like,
say
if I devoted 6 years of my life.
well, let's be honest. He says 60 days, but like I got at him enough, and other people got him enough. Then Alex kind of challenged him on backstage, and he kind of now backed it up a little bit. That he makes the point now. And I was trying to say 60 days to compete, and I still don't think it's enough myself. But we'll see what happens. There it goes. There you go.
A lot of competitors get knocked out. Well, that's competing.
That's true. That's a good question. You like wrestling and you like Queen. Do you like Ed Harris there, Frankie?
I do. In love. Absolutely in love.
Frankie's my new favorite Showdown player, it looks like, I think, at this point.
All right, Paul.
Oh, that's a good picture right there.
That's the level of love that's on this
There it
slide.
is.
Listen, there's some Photoshop pictures of me in places that I don't want to put on here. You know?
That was thanks to Jake.
That's not Photoshop. That's a real picture.
Oh, okay.
That's all right.
It's a legal marriage.
It is. Love in my eyes. It was very, very palpable. So speaking of Ben Bateman, as far as it actually being, like I said, he's one of those strategic players in the league. Are you guys going to be those kind of strategic player? Are you going to learn the game to the point where you're using those kind of strategies? Or are you going to be more about just the base knowledge and making sure that's locked down?
I mean, I think you have to be in the way that the game is kind of, progressed and where it is now. I remember, when I first got into it, it really was, I forgot who else said this, but it really was just kind of like friends playing and, kind of messing around. And I think at the level of competition where it is now, you need to be that way. And, that's why I'm throwing my hat in the ring here, because I do think, I'm a very competitive person. And I think that in order to get to that point where you'll be able to compete, in any regard, you need to be able to know the game, play with the game, adjust, a little bit of game tape, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So
fair enough. Thomas,
I completely agree. My perspective on things, and this is, beyond the schmodown, I guess, but in terms of coming into the Star Wars division, I'm not a bigger Star Wars fan than anybody. I think we're all sort of equal in that. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing that, but I can bring a work ethic, and I will absolutely not be outworked by somebody else in the league. If I get beat because there's a chink in my armor and I don't know a question and it just completely blanks out of my mind, that's just not something I covered, I could deal with that. That's a tough pill to swallow, but that's fine. But rare in my life has there been a moment where somebody's just out-knowledged me. And, that's not some innate skill. That's just putting in the time to prep, putting in the time to know the material. And I bring that same mentality here.
All right, sounds good. Now, how about Frankie? You said you watched the Schmodown for a while, doing catching up. Is there any one player that you really want to see yourself go up against, like someone you'd want to challenge?
I mean, I don't know. I have an immense amount of respect for all the people that have, proven themselves, and I can sit here. I think, during my first conversation with people, there was, talk about, I reminded them in ways of Andrew Guy and the old Andrew Guy being able to the quick talking, fast shooting Andrew Guy, man. And, I think that, that would be, down the road, I think that would be great. I think him and I would be able to draw, but anyone, like I said, at this point, anybody, I have an immense amount of respect for everybody in there. And I know that, the type of person I am, and from what my understanding, the type of people involved, like we'd be able to put on a good show.
Oh, nice. Tom, how about you as far as that goes?
I'm going to throw a new answer out there, something that I've thought about as I've watched more matches and particularly reflected on the tournament from this past year, but it's Ace Cabrera. I have a lot of respect for the path that he wound through the tournament this year. Folks have called it like a Cinderella dance. I mean, that was, I think that does a disservice to what he did there. He won those matches, won them well, won them by knowing his stuff. The standout moment of that entire tournament, and I say this knowing that the championship match back in December didn't go the way that he wanted it to go. But the standout moment for me, the moment where I had to kick back in my own chair and be like, that's a competitor right there. He gets a question against, I think it was Laura, and it's having to name a specific parking citation that Finn and Rose get issued in The Last Jedi. And the line itself, it's 12/B/6. The line itself is a reference to a Terry Gilliam movie from the 80s. That is obscure enough. But that just shows the attention to detail that he obviously had in prepping, and that he took the whole, not that anybody wouldn't take it seriously, but that he came to play. That was one of those moments where I was like, I wouldn't know that. And I was watching that in the middle of my own Dragon Con prep. And I immediately added that to my prep material. Said, know this parking citation, because I didn't know it before. So if Ace is watching out there, I've complimented you before, but my hat's off to you. But I would love to go against you and go toe-to-toe in the ring.
Very cool.
All right. Well, Frankie, I actually want to ask you, you're kind of running a little low on time, and that's fine. How about your background? I know you have your own podcast. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've done and how you got to that?
Sure. Yeah. I've had a bunch of podcasts. I'm one of those millennials that just throws, something against the wall, sees what sticks. Years ago, I did a wrestling podcast. I did a movie podcast last year. And now my buddy Joey out of New York, he has a podcast he's been doing for years called The Basement Yard. And it's a comedy podcast. I mean, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's not for the children, so put them away. So I do that with him, every week, every Monday morning, new episodes. And it's a great time, man. I mean, he's been my best friend for, 25 years. We know each other inside and out. So we just sit there, we talk shit. We get a little topical, but for the most part, we try to keep our opinions and the world out of it. And we just either tear each other apart or just tear apart, whatever's going on.
Very nice. Very nice.
Don't die.
Oh, are you okay?
Wrong pipe.
Yes.
All right, well, Paul, stop
Okay.
talking.
Paul's
Other
alive.
people can talk.
Award-winning podcast right here. Award-winning podcast.
Can only get this here.
This is what people come for.
This is why
Good job, award-winning.
I gotta say, you're a Bears fan. You just invoked the Farley. God, Bears.
Weird. Joking in a Bears fan? Never.
That's what we do every year at this point. That's why we watch the playoffs. Like, God, you gotta make it to the playoffs and then choke again.
Oh well, at least you have a pulse that you can choke.
That's true. Oh. So, Tom, what are your
Those
thoughts
Pennington years.
Star Wars now, obviously, it is just the movies at this point, but I'm betting that you'd be welcoming. They've talked about perhaps in 2022 and beyond bringing in some of the canon shows like Mandalorian and things like that. I'm sure you'd be welcoming that, right?
Yeah, I would look if they brought in the Clone Wars alone, I would challenge any competitor that's not Alex Damon or the other two Dragon Con folks, Zach and Marie, to wrap their head around. Like, you've got 11 movies to study right now. That's difficult in terms of the amount that you have to know, but add on, do the math, 7 seasons on average, about 20 episodes a season, all 22 minutes long. How much screen time that is to know all of that in the same level of detail. And even The Mandalorian, by the time they would get around to, I would assume season 3 will be in and out the door by the time they would get around to expanding the league. Even 3 seasons of that show at the level of lore that's packed into every episode, it's a challenge. I welcome it. If they want to do that, I would love that. I've heard Christians say before that they're not movies, and I totally get that. But I would totally support making Star Wars sort of its own thing and creating this like beastly competition that really is going to showcase some of the best knowledge that's out there.
Fair enough. Well, Frank, you had one choice to make a new division that you could excel in, besides the mask, besides the one single movie.
Mask.
I don't think the mask is going to happen, but there's always talk about something like MCU possibly, or maybe Horror League or something like that. Is there one division that you would like to be put in there that you would say, yeah, I'll go for that league?
I mean, the easy answer is the MCU. I've been growing as the movies have been coming out, and I'm definitely one of those people that sits and goes over every Easter egg and stuff like that. So as Thomas, speaking the way he speaks about Star Wars, I honestly think I could be like that in MCU. But I think seeing something outside that and going the route of just genre specific. I think that the stuff that we have with Star Wars and Intergeekdom is so great. But when you get into there are people out there that are just horror fans, or there are people out there that are just rom-coms. So look, the league only consistently evolves and gets bigger, and I think one day there might be an audience for that.
Perfect.
But so short answer is I would say the MCU. Yeah, I hate to be the boring answer, but
it's not. But I think it's the one that's probably.
I'd watch and be like, we didn't watch the same movie. I missed it.
Yeah. That's how I feel about the Star Wars division.
Well, given now we have a Star Wars and an MCU guy, I should ask you guys, Frankie, what's your most anticipated MCU project coming out this next year or two? Kelsey's got her answer, and
I got my answer.
Boy, something tells me it's Loki. I have to say, I think.
Blame Belford.
I hate to admit it. I was not an outspoken fan of WandaVision when I first heard of it, but from what I've seen and from all the stuff that appears that's going on, that and Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I'm ready to go full weird, man.
Fair enough. That's a good one, man. Nerd Chronic saying maybe we can get Frankie in the MCU exhibition against Gerber. That would be good, because Sean Gerber definitely, if you saw that exhibition match, he put up quite a showing there. So that'd be the way to go. And,
never missed the MCU question.
Thomas, I'll ask you that. Like, for Star Wars, then, what's your most anticipated Star Wars either project, film?
Look, I want to know what Taika Waititi is coming up with in his brain. We only got that logo at the investors call. Who would have thought in 2020 that we'd all be like huddled around a Disney investors call? But if in terms of named projects, it's got to be Rogue Squadron. I grew up and still am a huge fleet junkie. I love all the starfighters, the capital ships. You give me a space battle and I'll eat it up. And if you know me on Twitter or if we interact, I'm a huge Y-Wing fan, so I know the odds of seeing those in Rogue Squadron is probably low. But I love Patty Jenkins. I love the video that she cut herself. And if you know her backstory, she talked about her dad. Her dad was actually a combat pilot, a Silver Star winner, so the second highest award right below the Medal of Honor. for his actions in the Vietnam War, but he ultimately died tragically in a NATO training accident. That's her motivator to make this movie and make it great. And I think there's like, what better fire to have lit under you than your dad's legacy and the palette of Star Wars that you get to paint on. So I'm beyond excited for that movie to come out.
All right. By the way, I forgot. I don't know, Frankie, if you know Nerd Chronic. Nerd Chronic is one who does those video chronic quizzes. So, Eric, if you're still watching.
Oh, no.
Oh, we lost Frankie. That's all right. That's unfortunate. Frankie said his phone was going to die, so they get the banner off. But, Eric, you should get in touch with Frankie because he's going to be looking for the mask on the video chronic quiz. Hopefully, if he hops back on, we'll let him plug his things. But unfortunately, sorry, Frankie, about that. But it is what it is, unfortunately. I'll ask you one more question, Thomas. And since I have you here, I was going to wrap up anyway. But since I have no more questions for Frankie at this point, a Star Wars Legends character that you want to see brought in to the new canon.
Taiku Selchu, like one of the Rogue Squadron. I mean, the option. I know that they're not going to just like one for one bring in the old books and the video game and stuff, but man, there's some great characters to build on. They've shown no hesitancy in other material to bring in Legends characters, and my fingers are crossed. So we'll see.
All right. I want to go with Talon Card, by the way. Love Talon Card.
I'll allow it.
You know, as a casual Star Wars fan, it always boggles my mind that they've never expanded the like in the movie sphere into the rest of this world that's been built by Star Wars. Like, it's almost, they feel like if we're not in the Skywalker, pathos, it's not worth telling, or it won't make any money. And I'm like, people like sci-fi movies that aren't Star Wars movies. They're going to like other Star Wars movies that are not this. Like, you can tell any stories you want. And people, and if it has Star Wars on it, you have a leg up. So tell stories. People pay money for it.
100% agree.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Really, the Acolyte, that show that's based on the High Republic, is going to be the first that we get. And I set the sequel trilogy aside because that's Skywalker, but that's way outside of the known realm. So
wait, he's back. I think. Wait, I have to send him off. Oh. Try again.
He Kaisered up. Did he run through the house?
There he is.
And plug in the phone?
There he is. He's there.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes.
I am so sorry for the change of scenery. I went into my white void in order to finish the conversation. So full transparency for everyone else watching. I told our host, our gracious hosts, that I just moved into a place and we just got the Wi-Fi set up, and my wife told me to put my streaming stuff in the basement away from her as far as possible. So we're still working on the connection down here. So my sincere apologies for coming off a little unprofessional, guys.
No, you let us know. It's okay. It's all good. We're all good here. I'm going to say we're going to wrap things up. So, Frankie, why don't you plug and tell where they can find you?
Well, on Instagram, I'm the Frank Alvarez, and then some heathen that hasn't tweeted since 2012 took that name on Twitter. So, unfortunately, I'm not able to be on there. Alvarez 8085 on Twitter.
We'll have to go find this guy and see what we can do.
Yeah, we're gonna find this guy. We're gonna show him a thing or two.
Yeah,
we're gonna do it. And then my podcast. If you guys like to just a breath of fresh air during these crazy times and have a laugh, you can go check out the Basement Yard in Santa Gato Studios on anything. We also my buddy Joe does a podcast, Other People's Lives, where he interviews people that are just, they have something very off or strange about them. A couple days ago, he spoke to a woman who has 2 vaginas. So, just covering all bases.
Nice.
Feel free to. Very strange, but free to.
Like this.
Did he find her?
Feel free to check all of this out.
Will do, absolutely. Thomas, how about yourself?
It's a Sarlacc pit.
I just want to listen to that episode now. It's wild. No, I'm on Twitter. My handle is probably the most creative thing that you've ever heard of, at Thomas L. Harper. That's L as in Lee. And I have a pair of podcasts that I'll talk here. The Legal Geeks is one, at the Legal Geeks. It's a podcast and a blog where we look at legal issues in pop culture. So we did an entire series on all the episodes of The Mandalorian. So stuff like, can a bounty hunter like the Mandalorian go get bring a bounty in dead? Is that legal? Can he kill or disintegrate Jawas to defend his ship? That sort of thing. So we take sort of like a fun look, but use the real life law as a framework of reference for it. And then I just launched a new podcast with the group is of co-hosts is much more talented than I am. I just sort of snuck in, but it's called the Joint Geeks of Staff. It's sort of like the Joint Chiefs of Staff. It's a group of national security professionals. I'm an Army officer by trade, but we've got a Foreign Service officer. We've got an F-15 Strike Eagle weapon system officer. We've got professors from West Point and the Naval Academy, a bunch of really, really talented people who also happen to be gigantic nerds. And what we do is we deep dive into certain franchises and the intersection between warfare and diplomacy and those franchises. So our first episode launched on New Year's Day, deep diving into the Mandalorian and like the mechanics of the New Republic, going from an insurgency into suddenly they win a war and they're in charge of a galaxy and the challenges that brings. So it's a lot of fun. You can find it on Twitter at the Joint Geeks. But thank you.
Oh, very nice. Well, we're going to wrap Billy. Billy, where can the folks find you, Billy?
You can find me at Mr. Billy Belford on Twitter. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Saying dumb things and congratulating myself on winning twice, 2-time award-winning podcast of the year. Yeah.
That works, man. Kelsey, how about you?
All right. You can find me at KelseyKins90 on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find me as QuinnKins on Instagram. That's my cosplay page. Hopefully I'll be on Twitch soon. It's been a while. It's been a minute, but I've got some new games that I would like to play on Twitch. So keep an eye out on my socials, I guess.
Very nice, very nice. I'll also at Paul_Denuzio. I go the Thomas route of being pretty boring as far as Twitter handles go. You can find me on Call to Action every week. Chill to Action is our usual interview show. That's returning next week, like I said, with Marisol McKee. Also, you can find me on the Action Industries YouTube channel, home to Ben Bateman and Andrew Guy, with the programming, the weekend programming every day. It's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And finally, also on PLD Projects, my own YouTube channel, which is pretty much a casual one. But I might be going tonight, actually. I might be going live tonight. It's kind of an impromptu thing. Kelsey is going to be on, possibly talking about our anticipation of the MCU. Other than that, this week, tomorrow, we got on our channel, we got another rookie coming in. We got Eric Davis, the managing editor of Fandango, is going to be our guest tomorrow night. I believe Kelsey and Billy are going to be here as well with me. And then finally, next week, also on Sunday morning, we're going to be doing an international friendly stream. Actually, we're going to be going at 7 a.m. Eastern time to bring on Robin Taylor Foster from the UK, and also Kat and Sunny from Denmark. So it should be an interesting one to go from there. If you're up, great. If not, it'll be there all day when you wake up and get your coffee. So otherwise, thank you guys so much. Join our Patreon. We just opened up our Patreon. There's all sorts of new tiers and fun things on that. That's coming up. We just had Ladies Night again. We're going to have a watch along soon. Our Patreon Q&A is coming up. They got the C2A movie challenge on our Discord. Lots of fun. So come hang out with us there as well. Otherwise, great to have everybody. Thank you again, Thomas and Frankie, for coming on. It was a lot of fun seeing you guys here. I hope to see you guys again soon, maybe even next time. If you get in the league and get onto the faction, we'll have you on our Shield Action, which is our full-on one-on-one, well, 2-on-1 interview. But until then, we all salute you guys. Take care.